Dear viewers, and in this segment of our program, we are going to talk about the outcome of the tripartite summit, which took place yesterday between Egypt, Cyprus, and Greece, in which many topics were tackled, on the top of which is illegal migration and means of combating terrorism, as well as many agreements were signed between the three parties. And to shed more light on the importance of this summit, we are joined today by Mr. Raouf Gaffar, who's a political analyst. Good morning.
Morning to you.
Good morning, Mr. Raouf. Well, first of all, if you can tell us the significance of this tripartite meeting in light of Egypt's foreign policy.
First of all, one has to speak about the relation between Egypt and Cyprus and Greece. This is a very old, solid relation. I mean, the expat community of Greek and Cypriots in Egypt was probably one of the largest in the world, and they lived long years among us as part of Egypt, actually. So we go back as far as relations and friendship a long way back. But anyway, so the idea of convening with them every now and again is not odd, but eventually lately we have discovered that the East Mediterranean region has a lot of wealth, particularly gas and oil, and in order to exploit these wealths, we had to agree with our neighbors about the mechanism of doing so. So this tightened even the relations more and more, and now we have not only friendly relations, but now we have common interests. So that is why we are always meeting, I mean the heads of state, of course, and the government on all levels. We are always meeting to follow up on the matters of mutual interests. This time comes not only for that purpose, but as you said, some other issues. But the main issue, I think, was the late acts of Turkey, particularly
Yes.
in this East Mediterranean area, and their illegal intervention and exploitation. They are now trying to explore in the deep waters, which does not belong to them, for oil and gas, and this needed the heads of state to sit down and work something out to face these the Turkish greed, I should call it. That is why.
Mm-hmm. So also yesterday witnessed the signing of many agreements between the three countries, and the most important of which is the prevention of double taxation between Egypt and Cyprus. So what is the importance of this agreement?
Since now that we have a lot of common interests, really, as far as gas is concerned, and Egypt will be doing a lot of liquefaction for the gas coming from Cyprus, etc. I mean, there will be a lot of common businesses. So one good subject to discuss and agree is the double taxation, because as long as we have a lot of things that we will eventually do together, so might as well find a formula by which if we work there or they work here, there should be some kind of agreement by which they don't pay or we don't pay it. I mean, we agree on to prevent the double taxation, either here or there. But this was again one of again they talked about, of course, the illegal immigration, as you rightly said. Cyprus being the nearest European country to Egypt, and it probably is the first stop for any unfortunate illegal immigration. And Greece comes next. So again, this is an issue that has to be agreed and followed up closely every now and again. Of course, fighting terrorism is the third issue that was, it is always, I mean, thoroughly discussed and coordinated between the nations. So these are some of the understandings and agreements that were signed during the summit that was held yesterday.
Also, Mr. Raouf, about encouraging investments from both countries, what do you think can the Egyptian government do in order to encourage the investments, especially for instance, the Suez Canal Economic Zone and other opportunities?
First of all, there will be cooperation as far as gas is concerned. I mean, in my opinion, it will be on a large scale. And this is the beginning. I'm sure that we love to have investments coming from abroad. Maybe the economic situation in Greece is not very favorable for foreign investment as far as Greek government or individuals are concerned. But again, more probable, we should be talking about joint venture projects, about projects that we do together. And hopefully, part of them will be in the Suez Canal economic area, particularly that Greece has been always famous with shipping and maritime transport. So this again is one of the main concerns of Egypt, particularly in the Suez Canal area. So I think that we should count on the expertise and the experience they have on this particular field and try to make use of it in the Suez Canal area. This is my personal opinion as far as this is concerned.
So, sir, how do you see the importance of electrical connection between Egypt, Greece, and Cyprus?
Well, I mean, now that we have, alhamdulillah, surplus of energy, particularly electricity, it is very important to link, and this actually is the Egyptian policy now, to link our electric grid with neighboring countries to start with. And of course, the first neighboring country from Europe will be Cyprus, then Greece. And this is again one of the subjects and one of the projects that have that can be implemented between the countries, because if we have surplus, we can export electricity to them, and God forbids, but anyway, in some cases we might need them to give us electricity. So it is extremely important to be always linked as far as energy is concerned with our neighboring countries, and this is a very good, not only, I mean, first degree neighbors, but I think that as far as electricity linkage is concerned, it will be extended to a lot of African states as well. So yes, of course, it is one of the most important projects that we aspire to have it concluded very, very soon. Yes.
Another important file that was on top of the agenda of the heads of state was the file of combating terrorism. How do you see this file, sir, and the impact of agreements between these countries and Egypt to combat terrorism can pay off?
Of course, Egypt has been doing that for the last few years, and we have been doing it very successfully, thank God. We have accumulated experience in this issue, but we cannot do it alone. I mean, we have to coordinate with other nations, because terrorism, as we see it now, has no particular place. We see it everywhere. And Unfortunately, Turkey, if I can say so, is hosting and is sponsoring this activity at large, and this is not, of course, healthy. Being a neighbor to Greece, being a neighbor to Cyprus, and of course very close to us, and we know the acts that are being done by the Mr. Erdogan and the Turkish administration as far as exporting, if I may use the word, terrorists from wherever they are to different countries in the area. And so this is one issue that has to be tackled, and tackled very seriously, because the harm that terrorism can cause is of course, we've seen, is tremendous, and has to be really fought not only by armies or police, but as was said repeatedly by our president, and we have to find the sources and try to dry these sources and prevent the financing from coming to the terrorists, so they cannot continue doing their atrocities, etc., etc. So it is, of course, one of the issues that has always, we've noticed our president, wherever he goes, I mean, last couple of weeks when he was in the United Nations, he spoke about terrorism, and he spoke about the views of Egypt regarding the fighting of terrorism in the coming future, and of course we have to coordinate, and we have to exchange views and ideas with all the neighboring countries, and of course Cyprus and Greece. Not only they are neighbors, but they are now partners, so they have to be involved in whatever issues like that.
So this takes us to the Roots Revival Initiative between Egypt, Greece and Cyprus. To what extent this initiative helps in enhancing friendly ties between the nations, between the peoples of the three nations?
I tell you, first of all, the idea of border demarcation that was signed back in the beginning of this millennium, 2003, and then the final one was signed in 2013, identified exactly what are the common areas that will be exploited by the two countries. And once you agree on doing that, immediately you are nearer, because you become partner.
Yes.
And this for the three countries is very important, because we are forming a hub for energy in this in the East Mediterranean zone, and of course this will help the three countries, because from this point we will spread into Europe through them and into Africa. So of course this will get us nearer and nearer, and will open the possibilities for future joint projects, particularly in the fields of energy and related fields. So yes, of course. Mind you, I mean, having frequented a lot of Greek people, they have been living among us for long times, and if you go to Greece and you speak Arabic, you find that they love you, and they will help you, and etc. So we have a sort of tie with them, and this makes things easy, and makes the cooperation easier, and the will to do joint projects and endeavors easier, and I think this is exactly what we are doing.
Yes. Also, on another front, Mr. Raouf, the tourism sector, and there were several MOUs that were signed. Do you believe that these meetings that are the trilateral meetings, would have a direct impact on the further progress of the tourism sector?
I am confident of that. I mean, as I said, we belong to the same geographical zone, I should say. And when we promote our tourism industry, particularly in countries that are far away, like for instance Japan or the United States. So a tourist that comes all the way from there might as well visit some of the countries that are around. So we can make joint campaigns for visits. We know that Greece and Cyprus have beautiful beaches, and even a lot of Egyptians, they go there. So I mean, and we have again beautiful beaches. Maybe we have the underwater and scuba diving, which does not exist there. But I mean, as I said, it is important to cooperate on this industry, because, as I said, people that come to this area, if their journey is well planned, they can visit us, them, and we can both benefit from such thing. And I'm sure that this is in the agenda. I mean, we're not inventing, but I'm sure they are doing this exactly.
So, in your opinion, what are the other areas of cooperation between the three countries other than energy sector?
Well, we start by energy, and once this is established, then we can talk, as you said, tourism is one of the things.
We see many Egyptians now go to Greece in summer too.
A lot of Egyptians go to Greece. A lot of Egyptians buy even real estate.
Actually, some developers in Egypt have their own places there for invest in the tourism sector in Greece.
Exactly, and I heard that some of the Greek industrialists are coming to Egypt. They are interested in some of the industries in which they specialized in, like oil, for instance. No, I'm talking edible oil. I'm not talking oil and gas. So they are probably will be cooperating, and if they are not already doing that, with the Egyptian counterparts to establish olive farms and manufacturing of olive oil, etc. And this is one thing that can represent a huge business as far as the area is concerned, and as far as exportation is concerned. The idea of having the liquefaction facility in Egypt and taking the gas coming from the Cypriot fields and liquefying it, and maybe sending it back to them or exporting them. This again represents, first of all, an added value to the Egyptian economy. Number two, will represent an income for both countries. So the possibilities are big, and I'm sure that we will be hearing about a lot of developments, whether in Cyprus, in Greece, or in Egypt. I'm nearly confident that we will be hearing about some Cypriot and Greek involvement in the city of Alamein, for instance, and in the north coast in particular. So I think that the possibilities are numerous, and they will be, I'm sure, well studied and well taken care of. Yes.
Sir, also among those Egyptian high-ranking officials that were receiving the delegation was the Minister of Culture. So what are the opportunities when it comes to culture exchange between the three countries?
Well, first of all, we have a lot of artifacts, we have a lot of monuments that go back to the Greco-Roman era. And this again gives everybody an idea that we are not tied just recently, but we have been
historic,
exactly, historically. So this again can be maybe an exchange of monuments, artifacts, establish museums here, museums there. If you remember, years ago, a Greek man living in Alexandria was looking for the Alexander tomb, and the Egyptian government was sponsoring him and helping him out, etc., etc. So I think that again on this particular issue, we should see some cooperation between the our ministry here, of course, and the counterparts in both countries in trying and unearthing a lot of
hidden treasures.
Exactly, yes. And I'm sure that Alexandria is full of them. And as much as we are keen and interested to explore and find them, they are. And I'm sure that this represents another field of activity that can see a very big cooperation between the two countries, of course.
So, sir, how can Cyprus and Greece benefit from Egypt's leadership to the African Union?
Of course, Egypt is one of the leading countries in Africa.
Yes.
Regardless or
actually
not that we are presiding the
yes.
African Union. This is something that will
rotate.
I mean, it will come every some years, but this is not important. The importance is that we are, as Egypt, an important country in the continent, and I am sure that we are not stopping by the end of the year. We will continue working closely with Africa. We will continue promoting our economic ties with all the African states. We will give them whatever they need as far as expertise, as far as maybe manpower and anything they need from us. We will not fail in availing it to them. I'm sure that the bilateral economy and commerce between Africa as a continent and foreign European countries will promote, and I am sure that Cyprus and Greece are very interested in working with Africa as far as maybe exploiting some of the resources that are in Africa. They are first degree, so they can get products from Africa at a rather reasonable price, etc. So I mean, of course, Egypt will continue working closely with all Africa, regardless or not it is on top of the African Union, and in the same time it will continue being a link between Africa and the outside world, whether Europe or Asia or anywhere else. And of course Cyprus and Greece are first degree neighbors, and they will be the first one to benefit, sure.
Raouf,
yes, actually we're running out of time, Karim, and we'd like to thank Mr. Raouf Gaffar, political and economic analyst. Thank you, sir, for being with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. And dear viewers, now we move on to a short break, and then we'll be back to resume the remaining segments of The Breakfast Show live on Live TV International.